in the back of wherever we are or on, the sidewalk. And that's when they'll be able to kind of just check up on me. So now I'm able to kind of clearly communicate, please be with me or leave me alone for a little bit, but I'm fine. Just because I kind of do need a mixture of that.
And you had mentioned you're very open about the mental health on Instagram. Do you find that sharing your experience really helps you out? And the obviously the feedback that you get, it's got to be pretty therapeutic in itself, right?
Absolutely. I remember when I first started my Instagram, it was actually going to be kind of just for fitness. I really didn't think anything of it. Um, but once I started talking about, my recovery journey, my sobriety, my mental health, I got so much more feedback in terms of that was just more gratifying. And it was so awesome to be able to see all these, college age girls or people of all ages, but mostly college age girls kind of identify with me and say, thank you so much for talking about that. I never felt like that just because that was me in college. I definitely had all these, mental struggles and obviously substance abuse, but I kind of just kept it to myself because I thought, no one wants to hear about this. This isn't something you talk about. It was still very taboo in my eyes. So to be able to talk about, hey, I've been there times 1,000, and to be able to tell people, even though I've come a long way, I still struggle with XYZ on the daily. It's just so nice to be able to kind of, first of all, get that out in a cathartic way, and then to also have people respond and say, thank you so much. Like, I needed to hear that or anything like that, because like the biggest thing about mental health and addiction and all that is connection. Like that is the end all be all of recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually took this Vinyasa flow class yesterday, and it was a part class and part workshop. And the gentleman who led it, Donnie, he's actually 5 years sober. So he talks about how he, struggled with his opioid addiction and alcoholism. And then as he's opening up, saying yoga, is what really got him through recovery. And then five other people in the class spoke up, saying that they're recovering alcoholics. And then after class, we're hanging out, and two of the ladies came up saying their children are. So it's pretty impactful. And you're right. I mean, recovery, and it's all about connecting and helping one another. So I applaud you for being so open on social media. To pivot and switch gears, I want to talk about your depression too, because there's so many people out there that struggle with depression, and somebody who's not probably doesn't understand what is going on inside their mind. I know, I've had a couple friends, and the question is, just snap out of it. Oh, just snap out of it. But it's not that easy, is it?
No.
Come on, what do you have to be depressed about, right? You
Oh
work
gosh,
out,
yeah,
you've
don't
got a
even.
husband, you're good looking. I don't get it. What's wrong with you? So tell me a
uh,
little bit about depression. What goes on in your mind?
yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things I try to tell people that don't have depression and want to understand depression is that it's not just being sad. Sadness is normal. Everyone gets sad. That's a human thing. But with depression, for me at least, it's more of a feeling of emptiness. And so I definitely have had moments where, it's depression in the sadness sort of way, crying uncontrollably, all that. But the biggest thing that I've had to kind of work around with is just absolute being lethargic,
Mm.
not even wanting to take a shower, not even wanting to get meals, just wanting to be in bed all day. And it it affects people with depression, mostly just because it seems so lazy on the outside, I guess, but it literally is. It feels like your brain is just going through quicksand, and you're trying to get out, and you're trying to motivate yourself to do stuff, but it just it's like you have anvils on your feet, and it's awful. And
What are
so
you saying in your
whenever
mind?
I
What
I'm
like
sorry.
what's going on in your mind? You said your brain is like quicksand, but what are you saying to yourself? Like, I can't get up. I don't want to get up.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly just kind of, why should I? What's the point?
Mm.
I kind of, it's almost like my brain is a moody 13-year-old teenager. So it's just, it just, it's just really the only way I can properly describe it is just not caring about absolutely anything. and not in an empowering sense, but just not being able to just motivate yourself to do absolutely anything. And it's so funny because you see all these depression medication commercials, and it's all like black and white and rainy, and the person's staring out a window and all that. And that's actually a pretty accurate depiction of depression, just because you you know that you should be doing things, and you know that you have the physical ability to, but it's just it's like the gears in your brain are switched off.
How are you able to pull yourself out of it? So for those days where you're laying in bed and you've got the anvils on your feet and your brain is mush and you're saying why, what's the point? How do you turn that mindset around? What do you do?
I do one thing. That's literally like the biggest catalyst when it comes to either productivity or just making myself feel human again, is saying, okay, I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to feed my dog. And that's it. And once I go down there, the momentum kind of carries through, like, okay, I fed my dog. I can take her for a walk now. And so it's good just because I'm able to not put all this expectation on myself, like, okay, I got to do this chore and this chore and this chore and this chore. It's like, you know what? I will be happy with myself if I go downstairs and do this one thing, accomplish this one goal.
So one step at a
And
time.
yeah, exactly. And it's so cliche, but it's so true, just because for me at least, I don't know about you, but whenever I think of all the stuff that I am disregarding or that I'm neglecting, it just makes me feel even more guilty and not even want to get up even more. So
Yeah.
it's very much the baby steps, and obviously we have to deal with it on a daily basis, but it really does add up.
Well, I appreciate you sharing with this. Is depression something you struggle with every day, or does it come in waves?
It definitely comes in waves. It also depends on my routine. So when I was living with my husband in Florida about a year ago, I didn't have a job. Like, I didn't have an office job or anything like that. So I really didn't have anything to do. I was kind of just a stay-at-home wife, which is obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but I thrive on routine. And so
Mm.
during those times, my depression was absolutely awful, because it was more of like an existential crisis, just like, am I just a, stay-at-home wife? Like, what am I doing with my life? All that. So activities and all that definitely help. Um, but like I said, it can strike at any time, which is the unfortunate part of mental health. It really doesn't discriminate. But definitely having routine, or at least something to make me feel like I'm a productive human of society, it definitely helps.
You and your husband are also obviously really tight. He's there to help you. I know he's got to be traveling a lot. Do you have somebody else that you lean on when he's gone?
Yes, absolutely. The military spouses are incredible here. A lot of them are very well aware of what I've been going through and all that. So even if I just say, "Hey, can you just come over to check on me?" They know exactly what I mean. Obviously, they don't need to, you know, bathe me or feed me or anything like that, but just to kind of just get a little moral boost from them is amazing. And then I also went to rehab in October, November of last year. So I've been able to have a really strong connection with people in that community as well, which is awesome, just because they're the kind of people that truly get what I'm going through. Like, they are going through with them themselves in terms of addiction. So it's almost like another little family there.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's go back to the drinking. So, what was the final straw that made you get the help that you deserved?
So, when my husband went to another city, or excuse me, another state for training, I was all alone in Florida. All of our friends, or most of our friends, had moved away for their assignments. So it was literally just me alone in our apartment. And so for me, I would just start. That was when it got like kind of to full alcoholic drinking sense, where I would just wake up, make myself a cocktail just because, and then just kind of mope around the apartment all day. Um, and I had to kind of cut that out when he came back, just because obviously I knew that it was problematic drinking. Um, but so when we moved to North Carolina in October, I kind of took that another step further. And then when we would go out or consistently time after time, I would just get super belligerent. I would I would run off. I would just try to run off from everyone, go on my own little adventure. And I would do all these things that are just not me. And so my husband, it was actually, it put a really, really big strain on our relationship just because he didn't necessarily understand what addiction was. So he thought I was just being, I just was being selfish and I cared more about drinking than him. So, which is very understandable from someone that doesn't understand addiction. But it had to come to a point where I literally couldn't um, like see myself. I couldn't see myself drinking without absolutely horrible consequences.
Hmm.
And so what happened actually was in October we had gone into a pub crawl. We got back, and this is the funny part. I had Angry Orchard, which is like hard cider. It's not even like cool liquor. It's just it's just like wine in beer form pretty much. But it's not even that hardcore. But anyway, we got back, and I guess by this point I'm completely blacked out. And I guess we got into a fight about something, and apparently I don't remember this, but apparently I ran downstairs and I tried to commit suicide. And
Oh.
thankfully he was there to snap me out of it or take the instruments away from me to prevent me from doing that. But that's when he called 911, and then I was committed to a suicide watch in a hospital for about 3 days. And I was, in my own little room with the white walls, with a TV, but absolutely nothing to do. Um, and that's just literally like for 72 hours, I was just lying down in that little hospital cot, just thinking, how did it get to this point?
And
And
you
how,
don't remember.
no, I don't remember anything. It was all recollected from him. And it was just so scary because I was, in a psych ward pretty much. And it was just one of those things where I woke up and and I went out to the little nurse's office. I was like, "Hey, when can I go home?" And they're like, "Oh, we have to keep you. You attempted suicide last night." And I had no idea. And they said, "Oh, okay. Well, we can contact your husband for you. What's his cell phone number?" And I started crying because I didn't even know my husband's cell phone number. And
Hmm.
that's how much I had like kind of isolated myself from the world in terms of my drinking. And so after that, 3 days, I checked myself into rehab just because at that point it was like, obviously, this is not normal. This is not a path that I can keep going down. I will literally die if I keep going down this path.
Yeah,
So that was one of the toughest moments of my life. I'm not going to lie, but it has absolutely been a turnaround point in terms of my recovery now.
that's fantastic. So you went into rehab. How long were we there?
I was there for 28 days. I completed the whole program.
Good for you. And you haven't had a drink since.
I have had a drink.
Had the
So
one slip
I
up.
was talking about the slip ups,
Yep.
and this actually happened quite recently. I'm going to be totally candid. Andrew, or my husband, was away, and I kind of thankfully it was in my own house. Nothing bad happened per se, but I tried it again. Let's put it like that, and thankfully nothing happened and all that, but it definitely was a slip up in terms of kind of being resentful of being sober and kind of asking myself, why can't I do this anymore? And then it was just kind of like a test run. And afterwards, I was like, oh, yeah, that's why I feel awful for 2 days afterwards. And I don't want to talk to anyone. So obviously, I'm not proud of it, but it did kind of confirm even more like, okay, yeah, no, I'm good sober. So um, I probably have to do reset my clean date, which is unfortunate, but it's in my quest of being more honest, I guess.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the honesty. So, somebody who is struggling with anxiety, depression, what is your biggest piece of advice for them?
My biggest piece of advice is to let someone know about it, and if they respond in a negative, hurtful way, just know that not everyone is going to understand your mental health or your mental disorders. And the best thing you can do is to go go for community support. So obviously Instagram has been an amazing thing in terms